On a Saturday, which means I've got some shining going on. Hopefully that won't be a problem. Let me see if I can move my handy piece of 12 by 12 cardstock there. All right, that'll be a little better maybe once I move this. So let me see how that looks. Oh yeah, that'll be fine. Okay, that was just getting some glare from my light. All right, so let me get my act together here and see if I can see what's going on. Hopefully some folks remembered to come. And it sounds like I am live because I heard my voice. Not that I wanted to, but I did. So here is our card for today. And I do appreciate y'all adjusting your schedule for me. We're gonna go to a bonfire, but there's actually a burn ban right now. So we'll see if the gentleman decides to burn or whether it will be a flameless bonfire evening. Hey, Judy. Hi, Julie. Hi, Bonnie and Janice. Appreciate you guys coming. Hey, Amy, you remembered. Yay. So this is my card. It features the new Thankful Garden bundle, which gets the stamp set, the dies, and 5 wonderful decorative masks. I'll tell you what, I am just more and more of a fan of the decorative masks. I have to say, they are just wonderful. And then I also pulled one of my perennial favorites. See what I did there? That's perennial postage, therefore it's a perennial favorite. And used one of the dies right here to cut out our sentiment. So this will all be on my blog tomorrow. So let us go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this kind of interesting card front. And let me show you how I did that. The new Lovely Garden DSP, which will also be available on the 4th of March, along with the bundle, has a side on it that has a pretty design, like so. And then the other sides of several of the images have a black and white design. So that's the one I picked. And what I did here is I kind of arbitrarily located a spot that I knew was going to be covered by my design. And I just, let me get this out the way, got ahead of myself there. I just kind of made a little mark with my scissors just so I could kind of see it, okay? And then I took my trimmer and I found where I wanted my ray to begin, down here on the bottom edge. And then I just rotated this until that little hole that I just made is in the cutting track. Now, this is not at all scientific, okay? If your little hole is in a completely different spot, I mean, if it could still be down here, all right? But it's gonna be all covered up by your flowers. So there you go. Here we go. So now I'm going to not use that one. And I'm going to run up and cut to roughly right where my little hole is. And since I did a good job putting my little hole in the cutting track, it actually captured the cutting blade. Okay, so now we'll leave that little hole in the cutting track and turn it so that we find the spot up here on the side of on the right side that we want to cut from to make our ray. And then we're going to roll right up like that. And when I pick this up, I have this oddly shaped little thing and like a men's tie. Okay, so I can now take my trimmer and set it aside and adhere that to a pretty in pink card base. Oh, and thank you. This is my March band for my Apple Watch. All right, now I'm going to go ahead. Thank you, Patsy. I am really glad to have you on, and thank you for the kind words. I'm just going to use a little liquid glue along the edges here. Don't need a ton. And then we'll just adhere it like so. Now, obviously, if my design didn't allow me to cut up in there and make it so weird, you'd have to do some measuring and math and all those things. But it does, and so I didn't. Okay, so there's our card front. There's how to do that. I'm going to set that aside. Hey, Alicia. And I'm going to get out a piece of basic white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp both large images from Thankful Garden, the hydrangea, and what I am calling an old-fashioned rose. I'm not really sure what that is, but for the purposes of this video and my blog, it will be the old-fashioned rose, okay? And I'm going to stamp them. I've got a big stack of ink over here. I'm going to stamp them on this piece of cardstock in Early Espresso ink. Hey, Nancy, I'm glad you got a notification. That is helpful. So we'll stamp the rose first, because that's the one I grabbed first. And then we'll stamp the hydrangea. I do love hydrangeas. Mine are all blue, and then I bought some white ones. And I've heard that you can change the blues to pinks. And I've always wanted to try it, and I never have done the thing. It's something where you either put lime or something in the ground around it, and that's supposed to change them to pink. And as much as I want to do it, I have never tried. There you go. Alrighty. Now let's do some coloring with the very handy decorative masks. So you get 5 masks, and I've put the numbers on them just so you can kind of see them. And for this particular set, you get, each mask has one for the hydrangea and one for the tea roses. Okay, so it really doesn't matter where you start, but I am going to go ahead and start with my tea rose since it's at the top. And the first thing you have to do is find out the orientation. Now, you can make a mark here, and it'll help you a little bit, but with these masks, really, you just need to know generally where that notch goes, the register mark, and I know that it's kind of up and that way, but then you really want to look at the image that you have stamped and ensure that the lines make sense, the edges of the stencil. Okay, so like, even if I thought it should be like that, that's not right, right? I would fix it. Okay, so did that make sense? That's why I'm not marking my register. I just know that with these stamped straight up, my stencils are going to have the tops up here towards about the 2 o'clock position. Okay, so for these roses, I am going to start with a pretty dry, small blending brush that has some Daffodil Delight ink on it. And I am going to go ahead and color those just very, very lightly to start. Okay, and then we'll switch to, let me get my Daffodil Delight out. I'm going to switch to mask number 2. Yes, this is a beautiful, beautiful stamp set. We'll switch to mask number 2. And I've got myself in a bit of a mess here, Bob. Okay, put that somewhere where it won't get ink on everything. And then I'm going to set up my stencil again, and you can kind of see how it starts to make sense where it needs to go on the image. Okay, so you can see the edges of the flower there, the edges out here. I'm again going to use Daffodil Delight, but I'm actually going to ink up this time. Okay, and I'm going to start off of the design, so just kind of rub on the stencil itself. And at this point, you kind of start making it as light or as dark as you want, okay? So I got relatively dark with this one. Okay. Just depends on how dark you want these tea roses to be. I think I don't know if they're tea roses or old-fashioned roses. So I'm just going to kind of call them old-fashioned tea roses, or the yellow flowers. Okay, so there's what we get after 2 masks. Now, with the 3rd mask, I'm gonna color twice. First off, I'm gonna color with the number 3 mask. I'm gonna color again in what is the word I'm looking for? Oh yes, I'm gonna color again in. Pay attention now. Hang on a second. I gotta think here for a sec. There we go. There we go. Now we're getting it. Okay, so this is making sense. That's not making sense, so I'm going to turn it a little bit. Okay, there we go. Just kind of want to look and see where it makes sense. If you saw that, I had this line way out here. I know that's not right, right? So I have to adjust my mask a little bit. Masks are pretty simple, but you do have to kind of pay attention a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to lightly come with my Daffodil Delight with number 3 mask. Like so. Okay, so I've added a little color there. And then I'm going to leave the mask in place and I'm going to switch to my peach pie ink pad. Okay, maybe. Let me let that. Okay, so here's a peach pie blending brush. Here's peach pie ink pad. I know it, Mary Ruth. I love this set. I really, really do. And I love the sentiments too. They really are very nice. All right, so now I'm going to take my peach pie and I'm going to start out sort of lightly till I see what I get. Okay, so now I've got peach pie and daffodil delight, and I actually kind of like that. But I think I'm going to come back. See, this is the nice thing about these, is you can kind of come back and add a little more color. It's a lot harder to take the color off. Just throwing that out there to you, okay? So let me switch back to my daffodil delight, and we'll add a little more of that color in. Okay, let me get that over here. See, what's going to happen is I'm going to stick my Daffodil Delight brush right in. And all I'm kind of doing is trying to tone down the big variations in the color, okay? So just make it until it makes you happy. And that right there makes me happy. Okay, so now we'll switch to leaves. We're going to switch to leafies. Hey, Judy, thank you for being Rosie today. And I'm going to make my leaves in a classic leaf color combo, and that is Granny Apple Green and Garden Green. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, number 4, is our correct stencil for these leaves. And I'm going to, this will be another one where I may come back and do another little go over it twice. You know what I mean? There you go. All right, so we're going to start with Granny Apple Green. And just color everywhere. Did I set my ink pad up in a really inconvenient spot? Yes, I did. So let's move it. How about that? Yeah, that was not. Yes, I am a trained professional. Don't try this on camera, trust me. Don't try this on camera, trust me. Okay, now, the truth of the matter is because of my design, the perfection or lack thereof of these leaves is, you know, a little bit loose. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? But I wanted you to see how it works because I want you to be as excited about this set as I am because I really, really love it a lot. Okay, and then we'll switch to Garden Green. Now this is gonna get really shocking really quick, so I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna fix that, okay? So we're lining this up, getting the edges where they make sense on the image. And that makes sense on the image. So we're gonna put some Garden Green on, like so. Okay, and you can see that's pretty variegated. So if it's more than you like, so it's more shocking, that too much of a distinction, right? Does that make sense? Okay, here we go. So put that number 4 back on. Don't add any ink to your brush, and just go back over the top, and that's going to kind of subtleize. It's going to subtleize that distinction there. Okay, did you see how that added a little variation and it's much less boy in your face? Okay, so now let's just go ahead and keep our greens out for a second, and we're going to switch to our second image. And I am going to now color the leaves, starting with what? Yep, Granny Apple Green, because it is the most perfect of the leaves colors. Hey, Debbie, thank you so much. Oh, Joan, I get it. I listen to audiobooks, especially sometimes when I'm crafting by myself, but mostly while I'm taking care of the pony in the morning, because that seems to be, that's kind of mindless, you know, either brushing her or cleaning the stall or you know, both. And so I can listen to the story and not miss it. Sometimes if I listen to an audiobook while I'm crafting, I get kind of distracted by the card I'm making, and then the next thing you know, I've gone through 4 chapters of the book and I have no idea where I am. Also, I've had this thing, the book I'm currently reading is so annoying. It'll go from like track 6 and then just arbitrarily skip, instead of going to track 7, it'll go to track 13. So I'm sitting there going, I feel like I've missed a whole lot. And so then you got to backtrack and try to see where you're at. And it's just very, very annoying. Okay, so now then the second leaf mask is number 5. So we're going to bring out our garden green Adian. Get that lined up. You guys are getting 2 flowers for the price of 1 today, because I just couldn't make up my mind. I just couldn't decide. So we're coming back with the garden green. That is not lined up, Mary. Pay attention. Stop your yammering and pay attention to what you're doing. Oops. Now you could, if you wanted, use a little bit of temporary adhesive to hold your cardstock down. I didn't do that because I'm lazy. Okay. And again, a little too much, so pull that number 1 back out. Number 1 leaf, number 4 mask, number 1 leaf. And without adding any more ink to the garden green, just go back over the top and blend it down in. Okay. And if you're still not happy with it after you get done with this, add a little ink and then brush it off on your scratch pad like that. And then you'll get a little more garden green going. Okay, so there's our leaves. I can put those away, and let's see now. Let me put my greens away. Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate it. I'm glad you like it. Hi, Vicky. Appreciate you coming. And let's see. Now I'm going to get my Pretty in Pink out, because we're going to make a pink hydrangea, by golly. And using the number 1 mask again, but this time with the pink. You know what? Let me wipe that down just a smidge with a paper towel, just so I don't get quite so much ink everywhere. Because I'm a pigger. Have we established that I'm a bit of a pigger? Yes, it's true. I am. Okay. All right, so now we can put that back on. And I do know that that's generally the direction. So that really helps. Having an idea where it generally goes is very helpful with this one, because there's a lot. But you still have to kind of look and line up the edges, okay? Now, this is a Pretty in Pink brush that really doesn't have a lot of ink on it, like hardly any. In fact, one could even go out on a limb and say 0. And I'm just going to start with that to just add the very tiniest little bit of color, like so. And then we'll get number 2. And the thing that's fun about it is you could make 3 or 4 of these and make like a, like a bouquet, and they could all be completely different. They could be completely different using the same exact colors, because that's how cool this whole masking thing is. All right, so I'm just lining things up, making sure that the edges of the mask look right on the image. And now we're going to use a little more ink. Like that. And the only reason I'm kind of going off over here is to just kind of get any potential splotches out the way. Get the splotches on your scratch pad, not on your cardstock. Okay, let's see how that looks. Oh, yes, that's coming along very nicely. And then the third one, thank you, Shirley, comes like this. Now, we're going to have to do a little bit of finagling there to see what we got. There you go. And you just kind of have to look all around and see if that looks about right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take my pink here. Oop, don't rub it on that green part. And we'll add that first, and then I'm coming back with some peach pie. Okay, so leave that in place, set that aside, bring peach pie into the game. Back to the party, peach pie, back to the party. Make sure this is peach pie and not yellow. I think that's yellow. Nope, that's the other one. Okay, here we go. Make sure I didn't move it. Give it a little bit of a rub off. Remember, you can always add ink. It's very, very hard to take it off. One might even be willing to use the term impossible. All right. And there we go. I kind of like that, but you know what I am going to do? So I'm going to come back and put a little more of the pink on, just to kind of tone it down a little bit. I want the suggestion of peach pie, not the, oh my God, it's peach pie, like that. And that's what I think I have right now. So we're going to go ahead and, oop, I just did it. I did the exact thing I said I was going to not. You know why? Because I left it right there. That's okay. I just rubbed it off, so we're good. All right, and then we're just going to come across like that with the pretty in pink and tone down the peach pie a little bit. Okay, there we go. So there's our two flowers. Now, I have enough space right there. I feel confident that I can get my sentiment stamped, cut out. So I'm going to stamp with love right here. And I am going to use my perennial postage stamp to cut it out. The two flowers each have their own die, which is quite handy. It would be weird to try to cut one flower out with just one, or both flowers out with one die. And then we'll use this die right here to cut our sentiment. Okay, so stay right there. I'm going to do this. This should be the only die cutting I need to do, unless I have made an error somewhere and not cut the things I needed. So be hanging on. Be hanging on. All right, the good news about the bonfire is that Mr. Fininator gets to go with us. So he will be very happy about that. He would actually probably be a lot happier if there was no actual fire. He won't be scared of the fire, but it'll be hot for him, I'm sure. All right, there's, oops, one flower done. We'll get the second flower, get our hydrangea cut out. All right. Almost. I want to get the, I'm not quite as interested in how accurately cut the leaves are, just because of the way my design is going, but you know, I'm trying to get it right. Trying to get it sort of right, at least a little bit right. My leaves on that die cut you're looking at right now are just a little bit out, but it'll be okay because of my design. There, that's a little better. And now to the sentiment, and then we'll be done with this piece. And we can start assembling, because that's really what's next. Well, we do have to do a little bit of coloring of some die cut leaves, but that won't take too long. That won't take too long. And then I'll let you get off. Are you guys right in the middle of dinner? Some of you are. Maybe those of you on the East Coast are probably trying to get ready for dinner at least. All right. And here we go. And there's our sentiment. Yay! Yay! I love perennial postage. It is such a good set. Such a good set. Okay. So let's start making our card. Now, what I thought would be a good idea, and I did this on my sample, and so I'm going to do it again, is I really want to kind of spill my elements off of my card base. So I am going to do something I don't usually do, which is adhere the card front to the card base and then build from there. Okie doke? Does that make sense? I wish we were going to have s'mores. I don't think there's going to be s'mores, but I'm almost certain there won't be s'mores, which is a bummer, because a bonfire, although the bonfire I think is probably a lot of pine and Wayne tells me that that's not a great thing to cook food on because it makes the sap and stuff. So, you know. All right, so I am using black Stampin' Dimensionals. Probably you don't need to if you don't want to, but there we go. Hey, Judy, thank you for coming. Sorry, I got distracted. I was trying to make sure I hadn't missed a question. Hey, Gloria, appreciate you coming. We'll get all these caps off. I can tell you it's a lot easier to tell when you have your caps off of your, let's put this on straight, off of your black Stampin' Dimensionals than it is on white ones. Okay, you can see that this is a little smaller card front than I'm used to doing, and that's because I kind of wanted that big bold area of the black. Okay, all right. So to begin, I'm going to use some liquid glue and adhere our rose image. And I want to do it so that he kind of goes off the edge. See how I'm letting him go off of the edge like that? That's part of why I adhered it to the card front, so that I could see how far off of the edge I can go without getting off of my card base. Okay, now before we go with the next step, I have 3 leaves. I cut all 3 of them from Granny Apple Green cardstock, and let me show you what I'm going to do. I love this particular leaf. I'm going to take that garden green brush and I'm going to add color to all 3 of the leaves. Okay. And I'm going to add less color to these 2 than I am to the 3-leaf die cut. And on my blog post, I call this the multi-leaf die cut and this the 3-leaf die cut. It's very technical, so you'll know which one I mean. But I'm just adding a little depth. Okay, and then I'll add a little to this one. I want them to look like different leaves, but I thought it would be cool to do it without using yet another color of cardstock. Okay. Also, I just think there's going to be way more variation in how it looks. It's going to look a little more natural, I think. A little more like my masked leaves, right? With the Granny Apple Green and the Garden Green. Okay, so that's how I did those 2. Now this one, I got quite a bit busier with the ink, okay? And I really kind of laid the ink on pretty good to kind of darken them up, because I wanted it to look like it came from a different plant, right? Different kind of flower. Different flowers have different colors of leaves. Most of them are green most of the time. So that's what I wanted them to do, was to be green still, but not the solid green that garden green would be. I know that's kind of a weird explanation. Okay, so you can see the difference just by how hard I work, how much extra ink I added, okay? Now let me wipe my hands off, because I can get ink on places quicker than anybody I know. I guarantee you that is my superpower. Okay. Clean that up. It dries pretty good, but it does leave a little bitty bit. Okay, so back to business. Let me get my glue back out and one of my multi-leaf leaves. And we'll just put a little bit of liquid glue down here on the stem. We're going to put him right here. And again, I want him to go off of the card mat, but not off of the card front, I'm saying, but not off of the card base. And we'll do the same with this little guy right here. These are like beautiful leaves. We're just going to put him right about there. Okay. All right, close this up. And then I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of my flower. Let me not put that right there. Okay. Thanks, Mary Catherine. I'm glad you like it. I think it's a fun way to make a little bit of a difference without using another cardstock. All right, so we'll get rid of our little caps here. The good news is we've done the longest part of all of this. Okay, now what I did here is I wanted this down far enough, and I set it so that the stem came down over the edge of that. I didn't want to see that pink right there. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to put that right there like that. And then I'm going to get some varying shades of yellow and brown. Well, that is not inaccurate for me as well. I'm going to take some of the Lemon Lolly Baker's Twine. This is from the Baker's Twine 3-pack. And I'm going to tie a bow, hopefully. Maybe. You know how I said the longest part was over? Nope, it could be me tying this bow. Okay, there we go. I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it here on the first try or the 2.5 try. Let's see how that looks compared to our sentiment. Make a little bit bigger loops. Okay. And then we can cut that. Put that aside. And we're going to want our sentiment right about there. Right about there. So I'm going to put my bow on right about there. And you see, I use liquid glue. You absolutely can use a glue dot if that works better for you, but that means I got to find my glue dot roll and all that, and liquid glue works just as good for me. Okay, so while that is kind of drying, I'm going to get some more dimensionals out, and you can use whatever color here. I'm just going to grab whatever I can find, and we're going to make a couple of stacks, double stacks, okay, and then one is going to go right on the other side of that bow. Stay right there. It's stuck to my finger. It doesn't want to let go. No, don't make me play. I don't want to play. Now I'm trying to make there's Judy, I think. Oh, that one's going. The downside of liquid glue is it might take a second to go, but it'll finally get there, I promise. Anybody see my tweezers? Oh, they're over here. Okay. I'm just going to grab that without getting my fingers in the way of that bow drying. And I'm going to put a second one on top. Quit that now. Second one on top, because when you're going across a bow, it sometimes helps to do a double stack of dimensionals so that you don't get like a bow bump, which is totally different from a baby bump. And before I do this, I almost forgot my last leaf. I almost forgot my last leaf. Don't want to forget my last leaf. I colored him and I did all the things. So we're going to put him, he's going to go right about there. Let's see how that looks. We're going to slide him down just like that. Okay. Cool beans. Whew. That was close. I'd have had to do some finagling to get him in there if I had forgotten. Pick up that little bow guy. Slide that right down in there. There we go. And then we can go ahead and put our sentiment on. Let's make him as straight as we can. Straight is good. Do you like straight? I like straight. All right, and then if you feel like you need another dimensional, you can really always slide one under. So just take the lid, put one on top, take the lid, use your tweezers, because I know you have them, and slide it right under like that. And then the last thing we're going to do is add some adhesive back heart sequins, and I'm putting 3 up here. 1, 2, 3, like so. And then I'm going to put just 1 on the sentiment like that. All right, and there is our card front. Now on the inside we're going to go super simple. Super simple. There is a second sentiment in the set. So what you have now is with love and thanks. So we're going to put and thanks in peach pie ink right in the center of our basic white panel. Okay. And then in garden green, there's a little tiny cute leaf, and we're going to stamp him right there by the sentiment. Like so. And while I have that out, why don't I stamp it on the front of my envelope, because we're a little long today. Okay. There we go. And then I can put the dreaded ink away so that I don't have an accident. And I'm going to mat this on Pretty in Pink because I do love black and pink together. So when I have an opportunity to put them together, I will do that, which means this card gets an inner liner mat. I've been kind of going away from that, and I will still stay away from that, but I just really like the opportunity to get the black and the pink together. Get the black and the pink together. A little liquid glue. You could use Stampin' Seal if you prefer. And we'll put that on like so. And then I'll take a heart and put it right there like that. And there's our card. Now I've got a little bit of this DSP for the envelope flap. There we go. Now look at that. With the exception of the envelope flap, there was no fussy cutting at all on this card. Thank you, Mary Ruth. Thank you, Mary Catherine. Appreciate you guys. Yep, it would be a beautiful Easter card. It would be a beautiful Mother's Day card. It would just be, it's just a pretty card. I think it's a pretty card. And I only say that, I don't say that to be bragging. I just think it's pretty because the Thankful Garden set is wonderful. All righto. World's easiest fussy cut. And we're done ski. Now look, you can see that although the flowers are the same colors, they look different, don't they? I mean, they really do, just based on how much color I added or didn't add. So there you go. All right, guys, I appreciate you. I so appreciate you juggling your schedule for me today. I'll be back on track at 1 o'clock on Thursday with another card that I just don't even know what it's going to be yet. That's way too far down the road. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much, guys. Ta.